So, Flesh and Blood, the price has dropped. What's the deal with that? You feeling a little scared? You feeling a little uneasy about this whole thing that's happening at the end of May, early June 2021? Is it really getting under your skin, or you're like, whoa, I don't understand. Prices just go this direction. How is it even possible that it's going this direction? Well, I want to discuss this, man, because I think that I've heard a lot of different reasons behind this whole thing. And I really think that it's a lot simpler than a lot of people are saying. It's a lot simpler, man. And if you look at it as a whole, I've heard different numbers and figures around how flesh and blood products as a whole over across the board are decreasing by 20 to 40% recently in this day. And it's all due to the cryptocurrency thing, or scalpers are in the markets, or people are doing this or that. But I don't think it's any of those. I think that those are for sure factors. And I think the era that we're living in right now of free trendies is definitely a huge factor on people's mindsets and the decisions that we're making as a whole. But honestly, just to sum up this whole video, is that I think the primary driver for the decrease overall in prices of Monarch and all of the flesh and blood products is just a really classic example of new product release pump and slump, is what I call it. And man, if I had to make a secondary market of trading card game book 101, this would be like the first freaking chapter that I'd make. It is so integral. It happens all the time in every trading card game. It's just a very classic trend that you can reasonably assume that's going to happen when new products get released. And I want to say in the beginning as well, not financial advice. I'm not obviously a financial advisor. This is a normal guy in a normal room just telling you what I think, and this is a little this is a pretty a little bit rudimentary here. So, let me break it down to you. And I could be wrong. Please let me know in the comment section if you think differently, man. But, I humbly think that it's definitely because of this reason. Now, with any set that is released, any TCG that's released, think about the verbiage here. It's a trend of pump and slump. Before the cards are out, before everything is available to the public, people are pumping. There's preview season, there's art card reveals, and for Flesh and Blood Monarch, oh geez, it was amazing. And I mean, I was a preview partner. I got to preview Rally the Rear Guard. And what happens is the trading card game industry as a whole, they try to dope you up with as much adrenaline as possible for their product. They try to shoot the most amount of smack into your veins. So you're like, oh my gosh, nothing exists other than this product. I'm laser focused. This product is the only thing I need to buy. Monarch, 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 Monarch. This is the product I need to buy. I need to use all my money and just buy it. They're trying to pump up demand. And not to that extent, this is exaggeration. But honestly, in the beginning of a product's release, they try to pump you with as much demand for their product, which is what any company does with their products. But think about the situation. They're pumping you full of demand, but there's no supply. Supply is this. It's a big fat zero. Nobody has shit. Nobody can do anything. They can't, they can pre-order and they can get canceled. But other than that, people can't really get products, or they don't have products. So the amount of money that you're willing to pay for stuff keeps going up and up and up because there's nothing. Now, when products get released, think about what happens in a two week to 1 month period. More supply hits the market, and as more and more supply of boxes and singles, mainly singles for Monarch, the price goes down because the demand goes down. Preview season is over. We don't have all these new flashy things happening every week, and that's what it was happening with Flesh and Blood Monarch. Like, there's a new thing every day that you could look at and speculate and do all this thing. There's a lot of hype, 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 hype. But once the product is out, once you have it, all that news like fades away. And it's like all you're left with is the cards to play with. And this doesn't just happen with Flesh and Blood. I've seen it with Magic the Gathering and a bunch of different sets, man. The best week to sell your singles in the short run is the first 2 weeks of the set coming out. Because what happens too is, think about it, guys. When you're selling your cards online, You're going to get like the people with the fattest wallets first, who are first to the market, who are like, hey, I'm willing to pay an exorbitant amount of money because I can't buy this anywhere else. So the first, 10, 20 listings on eBay or TCG Player, those things go out really fast and you can really kind of set your price at the market. So at the end of the day, this is a whole classic example, in my mind, in my opinion, for Flesh and Blood secondary market slump of end of May, early June 2021. I think it's really a classic example of new product release pump and slump, where at the beginning there's an extremely high amount of demand and a very low supply. And then towards the end, once you get out of that 2 week to 1 month period, man, then you have a situation where the supply is much higher single cards. You have a lot more single cards out there in the market, and then less demand due to the fact that there's not constant marketing, but also because other games and other things get people's attention. Other things distract them, but it's mainly the supply, I think. And you might say, well, Bronson, that doesn't account for the alpha stuff. The alpha stuff went down too. The beta stuff with Arcane Rising, that stuff went down too. Well, what that doesn't really fall in line with your thing. And I feel you, man. It doesn't. But that might have to deal more with the mindset of people worrying and people listening to the news and what they've have accumulated in their brain. And that I think is a good factor. And I do think all the other factors are very legitimate that I've heard in the past, where, we've had recently, I think 3 weeks ago, the crypto market crashed. That was a thing. People lost a lot of their money in Doge and all this other bullshit. And, you have all these different situations where the crypto market went down, Pokemon and all the other TCGs, they dropped in price, and then you see Flesh and Blood, and then I think it's easy to see all these other worldly events and kind of mash them into Flesh and Blood, and that's the reason. And I do think that they have factors, and I think that they would have factors on the older cards in that way. But ultimately, for the new set Monarch, I think that the reason why you saw this huge, prices for the cards and then, a slump off is mainly because of the pump and slump trend that is just naturally occurring for TCGs with new products. I mean, I think it's that simple, honestly, man. And honestly, I just want to go into a little rant at the end and talk about more of the older cards for Flesh and Blood. I don't understand. I don't understand why really they went down, to be honest. And I think it's really just because of a short supply of paper-handed people who just either needed the money, who got worried. But I want to say this a bunch, that I really think for alpha boxes, alpha cards for Welcome to Wrath, and then alpha first edition Arcane Rising, I think that there is a very small percentage, or very small amount of people in the community of Flesh and Blood, and I'm talking like less than 100 people, who own like 80% of the entire population of cards, or entire population of highly gradable, legendary, and fable cards. I think that it's a very, very slim margin out there who own the largest amount of cards in this game. And I want to say to people, you might think that things went down, and maybe this is a good time to buy, but I'm telling you, like, I don't think that those individuals will really give a shit that these cards on paper, online, shouldn't say on paper, online are decreasing a little bit. It's a good time for them to buy. There's no incentive for people who are very high net worth individuals to really just let go of their collection for really cheap, and they don't care that the market went down. They love the cards. And from hearing from big time collectors who have a lot of net worth, like Saint from the Fable Hunters group, love the guy. I think he's really passionate about the game, and it's really cool that he's coming to light and talking about the game. If you look at him, he doesn't talk about the return on investment and all that bullshit, and he doesn't care about that stuff. He likes the cards for the art. And I can see myself, if I had a ton of money and I could, pump a bunch of capital into the market, I mean, I wouldn't really care as well because you got to think that the amount of money to that extent isn't that well. And I know I'm ranting a little bit at the end. And I know it doesn't really have to do with this main topic, but I do want to address the fact that the Alpha, Welcome to Wrath, and Arcane Rising cards, it does seem like they slumped a little bit too. And I mean, the market prices are very big. And honestly, the market hasn't really had any decrease for a very long period of time. I mean, it was from I got into this game starting in September 2020, and all the time I've been in here, it's just constantly gone up and up and up. You might have seen different situations where the market trended back like 10% or someone got a good discount here or there, but ultimately it just felt like giant rockets up, rockets up, rockets up. But this is the first time that we're seeing a little bit of slump off. So I think that people who, aren't used to that type of market noise, this is an event that really kind of pushed them a little bit over the edge outside of their comfort zone. So they're just trying to, get their money out of it. And I totally understand if you're in a situation where you need it, but I just want to say ultimately this isn't an event where mass amount of people are just selling off their cards. I think it's very small in the in the grand scheme of things. It's not like you see like 50 Heart of Fandale cold foils from Welcome to Wrath like on the market, or a ton of cold foils from any of the first sets on the market. Just like, hey, we're trying to get rid of these because I don't believe in the game anymore. Throw up their hands. You don't have those situations. And because we don't have those situations, I don't think that this is really a moment where the game is truly slumping because a mindset that they don't believe in the product. I don't think that this is a moment where people just say, hey, I don't believe in this game, I'm done. Because I've seen that so many times in the past, and there have been moments in this game where that's happened. But this is not one of those times. This is, different outside forces have a little bit of effect on the older stuff, and they might have an effect on different prices a little bit. But I think ultimately, when you have Monarch, the new set for Flesh and Blood, currently, it's just a classic example where new product gets released, and then in the short term, in 2 months, 2 weeks to a month, it just peters out. Like it just goes back to like kind of normal pricings. And I want to say too at the end a little bit here, man. I want to go on a little bit more of a rant. It's like another huge reason why the prices have normalized out is because Unlimited was printed a month or released a month after first edition. So if you think about your mindset, 2 weeks after the release of Flesh and Blood, Monarch, right? You open your boxes, you got your cards, and you're like, whoa, these cards are a lot of money. I can sell these cards and buy unlimited boxes and keep, a little bit over and make money from this, right? You have more of that mindset, I believe, because you're like, hey, well, I can just play with those cards. Why don't I just do that and get the unlimited product? And I think that the reason why people are more incentivized to do that is because they know that there's going to be a cheaper option available to play the game very soon. So a lot of players of Flesh and Blood don't really give a shit too much about the first editions. They're like, hey, if I can sell a couple of these cards, if I can sell a cold foil common, stubby hammer gloves, or the slippers or some shit, they can sell this common card that they don't need for like one or two Monarch unlimited boxes, and they can have more cards. So I think it's that thing too. And what's funny to me is this was the whole problem that people were trying to avoid 3 months ago. And I talked about it. A lot of people out there talked about it. They were like, oh no, there's not going to be a Monarch for a long period of time. We're all going to be screwed. Like, they thought that first edition was going to release, right? And then we're going to have this situation where there's going to be 3 to 4 months go by where there's no unlimited product. And people were going to be screwed for 4 months while people scalped and did all this bullshit. But Legend Story Studios, they listen to the community. That's the biggest thing people are forgetting here. Why are people forgetting this shit? In December, Legend Story Studios said, hey, we're delaying Monarch's release. And the reason why they probably did that is so they could coincide it more with Unlimited product where they release first edition and then Unlimited comes out a month later. They listened. And guess what happened, guys? It happened how you wanted it. Well, first edition came out. It was very high prices for 2 weeks, a month, but then they petered out. And because unlimited is a big factor in this too, and it's just funny to me, man. It's just funny. It's like I wonder if just like I just haven't heard it too much said it out there in this current age. When I'm talking to a bunch of people, they say, "Oh, it's due to this reason or that reason." It's like we so short-sighted that we don't see the past of how we were thinking and what we were saying. We were all saying this, that Unlimited needed to be printed very close to first edition. And I think everyone agreed on that. I mean, there might have been discrepancy on when some people said, hey, Unlimited needs to come out right when first edition comes out, or maybe 2 weeks or a month, but everyone was in agreement that it needs to come out in that time period. I don't think there's anyone who said, like, it needs to be 4 months afterwards so I can scalp the shit out of people. Like, no one was saying that. So, I don't know. It's just funny to me how I think that that is a huge driver as well that we're not really giving credit to at all. I haven't heard that anyone else say that at this current time, which is kind of concerning. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it definitely makes sense in the mindsets of people. It's like, hey, if I can't afford this $500 booster box of Flesh and Blood Monarch First Edition, I can buy 5 unlimited boxes of the same box. It just doesn't have the metallic cards. And when you look at it like that, it's kind of like a easy decision, especially if you don't have a high net worth and you can't spend a ton of money on trading cards. So, ultimately, great job. We all did it. And, Legend Story Studios, you have to give them credit. They listened to the community, and honestly, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed now, after everything's unfolded, how things unfolded. And it honestly was very fair. I mean, first edition did come out, and the prices were pretty high, but it really didn't, like, what's 1 month, guys? In the grand scheme of things, a month is like nothing. And for prices to normalize more lower in the course of the month, and then unlimited's coming out in the next week or so, and more, it's going to give more people access to the game, and more people have access to cards. And oh my gosh, these booster boxes are actually going to be in the local game stores on the wall so people can actually fucking buy them. So yeah, man, I just think that that's a huge driver that I don't hear too much also. But just to sum it up, the whole market slump of late what is it, May, early June 2021, in my opinion, is due to the classic pump and slump. New product release, high demand, and then it gets released, high supply that reduces the price. And then I also think a very major driver that really isn't talked too much about is the whole setup where Unlimited Monarch got released a month after first edition Monarch, which made it so people understood that there is reasonable card printing in just a little bit. So if they hold on a little bit, they can get it. And it even incentivized players who opened up their boxes, who just wanted to see the cards, and they're like, well, I can sell my cold foil Vestige of Soul or a cold foil Legendary too, for for a case, like 4 boxes of Monarch Unlimited. I think it's pushing people more to sell off their collection, sell off the big hits of their collection for first edition, because they know that Monarch is right around the corner. They know that those cards are going to be available soon for a much reduced price. And I mean, I've seen Monarch Unlimited Legendaries go to the market right now for like $150, $170. And when you're telling me that you can get the same card for like, what, $300 less, that's kind of a no-brainer for people. And that's like, okay, you can here's the whole kicker, man. Is like people say, okay, you're telling me I have this cold foil card. I can literally get the same card in rainbow foil and get 3 boxes of Monarch Unlimited. Why not? And as a player, it's so easy to make that decision because it's just more cards for your collection. And hey, you could pull more stuff. You could play the gambling game, and people are into that, man. But ultimately, I'm not worried. Not worried at all. I'm not selling shit of my alpha cards. I'm staying put. And ultimately, if you're listening this far in the video, again, not financial advice, but I think as time moves on, time is going to be a huge factor for the older stuff. And when people do get in these situations where the new product has a negative vibe for who knows what reason, or if there are downturns in the market, I think you're going to see eventually money shift over to the alpha cards because those are the old cards. Old cards are, a year and a half right now. They're a very little infant. But I think that we're going to see more of that trend too. And that's another thing where, people are scared about the new stuff. So they pump money into the old. That trend hasn't come up yet. But also, I just want to say that this era of free trendies, I think that it really did inhibit this classical pump and slump because the free trendies model, people are just buying this stuff up, and they like, hey, I'm just gonna hold, and it's worth money, and it's probably gonna be worth more money over time, and people have that mindset of, oh, like whatever I buy is gold. And when things don't go right, and when things go amiss, I think that really did have a little effect too, where people were like, oh, well, maybe I do have to sell this stuff. Maybe this isn't gonna be too valuable over the course of time. But ultimately, man, I'm not scared. I don't think a lot of people are scared, and I know for sure that from a lot of the collections people have, I don't think that they're gonna move too much. And I think that this 20 to 40% thing, it's kind of like a bunch of like mist and fluff. It really doesn't mean much. And if you see the old cards doing that, the sales aren't very high, man. There's not many like old cold foil cards that are changing hands frequently. It's not that type of situation. It's just honestly, it's kind of like the last group of people who have these, who are just trying to unload because they're getting scared. But ultimately, I just don't think that over time it's gonna like matter. It's not gonna matter too much, and in any respect, I think it's gonna make it even worse. I think the prices of the old cards probably go even higher because not that many people have them, and the people who do have them never want to sell. So when you have that type of situation, you have a situation like this where people get scared and they sell. All the people who aren't very, extremely wealthy get rid of their cards to the more wealthy people. It just accumulates that wealth and collection to the higher mass individuals who never want to sell. So yeah, that's how I think. But honestly, man, I'm not scared. This game's amazing, and what we have to really sit back and realize is no matter what it is, no matter if it's me being correct and the market trend of pump and slump, or if it's the collectible world, if it's scalpers, if it's this or that, or this free trendies era, no matter what the main driver is for this market price reduction in the secondary market for Flesh and Blood, the game's amazing. The company's badass. The cards look fucking amazing. This Monarch set is gonna go down in history. It's just so good, and just the gameplay is fantastic, and just everything that it has going for it. And the company is so well managed financially that they're gonna last a very long period of time if unmolested. So I just have very high hopes of the future, and this is a very small blip in time that I think in the future we're going to look back and laugh at and be like, oh, remember when people were selling the cards for that price? What were we doing then? But yeah, let me know what you think. Have a good one, man.